Hello, and welcome to Blades and Banners, a Tales of the Valiant actual play show set in the Eberron campaign world. It's Friday, so this is the Ship's Log, our Q&A show, and we are joined by our long-lost friend, Eric.
I'm back.
You're back. So back that you're on the Q&A.
Yeah. Philip couldn't
S-
keep me away, no matter
that's
how
right.
hard he tried.
Speaking of that, so because you have an active life with local theater,
Yeah.
this is the third, I think, time since we started doing Tales from the Laughing Tree that we've had to absent your character. This is the least, well, yeah, probably the least gymnastics I've done to absent your character because
Yeah.
there was a convenient excuse. We actually, viewers don't know this. I actually thought Eric would be gone longer. Our recording got cut, time got cut short, and so I had actually built in an excuse for Oren to go all the way back to 7th. I decided, okay, a Coral Fang ship will come through Vale and pick up Oren and the prisoners so that they're safe, and then go back and they don't have to worry about all this. For reasons that will become clear, I'm so glad that's not what happened.
Oh boy.
But I just snipped that out of the episode when I realized that Eric could be with us for our next recording session. So how much disorientation is there in coming back after you've taken a break to do a play or to do whatever?
See, I think the lack of gymnastics of you just kind of hand waving, yeah, Oren's around, makes it harder because with Ari would disappear and go to another
Right.
plane. So it was easy for Eric and Ari to be on the same page of, hey, what's been going on, everyone? Whereas with Oren having been around, it's like, Oren knows, but just for the sake of the audience, why don't we do a bit of a recap here? So, yeah, it wasn't horribly disorienting. I feel like I kind of picked up what was going on fairly quickly, but it definitely was a lot more jarring than previously. So,
I think one thing that just in general as a game master, and I think just from watching other people play and playing in a lot of games, I think something that we don't see at tables that we should probably be more encouraging of, um, and not viewing as a waste of time, is letting characters tell each other stories about their adventures in character. Because obviously they went through this really significant thing with going to this crypt and learning about this white and recovering this sword, and none of that has been communicated to Oren. Certainly not in character. Maybe off screen at while they're sitting around the table or something. But I think that would be fun. I understand the thought, like, well, we've only got so much time in an episode. Do we really want to like use it to recap for the something the audience already watched? But I don't know. I think there's, especially when you've got, you're in a pirate culture, and so boasting about adventures has got to be a real part of the world. We have a bard in the party, like, so I think, I think we should probably, as game masters, but even off recording, even in games I play that aren't recorded, there's definitely a sense of awkwardness about that, where it'll be like, we tell you what happened. I think that, I don't know. I think we're missing out on something there. I'm not sure I'm right, but I feel like we're missing out on something by not encouraging that.
I agree, and I think as a fellow GM, there's always like a pretty large amount of insight you can gain by hearing the players recount an adventure to someone who may not have been there, or just sitting around talking. Because I know that you felt it before, because I remember it happening on Kyber Shards, and I've certainly felt it on Eberron Renewed, of like you all talking about somebody that you interact with and going, yeah, that guy was a jerk, and me being like, what the how was he a jerk? Like what? I think reasonable is the appropriate word, but no, it's just funny to get like the insight of the player and the player characters, their perspective on the adventure. Because I think it's really easy to kind of get focused in on our lens.
No, I wholeheartedly agree. This happened in our most recent recording is not published yet, and I'm not going to get into the details of this, but there is a conversation about which course of action to take, and one of the things that comes up in that is, well, is this going to stir the pot too much or kick up too much dust for Leshturga? And I was thinking, and I realized that for you guys as players, this is months ago, but I was thinking the conversation Leshturga had with you all when she gave you the ship was time for subtlety maybe is passing. It's maybe time for confrontation. But also it feels like as a GM, you don't want to be like, well, you guys remember Leshturga said, because then it sounds like I'm trying to push you to a particular course of action instead of just trying to reintroduce a piece of information that I think you guys have forgotten.
Yeah. It is a fine line to walk between acknowledging for the characters it's been a much shorter amount of time generally than it has been for the players. And also these things are the most important things happening in the player characters' lives. And I love playing tabletop role-playing games. That is not the case for Eric the player.
Right.
And so, yeah, I do think it is tricky to know. I do think it is tricky to know when to remind people of that. So, yeah.
And that was like one of the things that happened was Casey, we were going to pause. And Casey said, so I have some game questions. She began asking me like, what are the social repercussions in this world? And I wanted that recorded because that's a good conversation and useful for both audience and players. So yeah, I think hearing the player characters redescribe something, hearing the players describe something, it can be frustrating because you're like, I don't really see it that way. But and I think it's really funny. One thing I do like about Ari or Oren coming back into the story after something has happened is in all of the times that Ari disappeared, both of the times that Ari couldn't be there, I planned what I thought would be something kind of fun and a little lighthearted. The idea of Ari being forgotten, and then we'll go on a little lighthearted adventure. And the heaviness will come when we remember Ari, and then we can deal with that. But in the meantime, it'll be funny. And then the second time, I'll kidnap River, and we'll go on this zany adventure in the Feywild based on Jabberwocky. Mm-hmm. And both of those ended up being such profound things that happened. Like Ezri died the first time, and then the adventure in the Feywild, it was so meaningful, so much more meaningful than I expected for Pog and Shade. And I end up feeling like this sucks. I feel so bad that Eric didn't get to join us in this because I didn't expect it. And this time is not nearly like that. But I mean, obviously, from the episode, Finian definitely had some feelings. Everyone kind of had some feelings about Inaugwin after the battle with his white and discovering the sword and all these things. But that Oren is now, got no context for. That I think at least is going to be funny instead of just pointing, because it's like they have this emotional feeling about it. And Oren's like, oh, cool, you killed a white and stole his sword.
I'll take that. Thank you.
Right. So have you divvied up the loot? That's fun to me, but
I will say that the second time Ari disappeared and I came back and it was just Colin and Casey playing, that was the only time I've really felt like, I missed something like significant, not just from a story standpoint, but from a like table standpoint. So which is fine. That happens.
Sure. But so anyway, we have some questions for you.
Excellent.
Beginning with Emily. So speaking of things that you missed, on a scale of 1 to 10, how disappointed are you that Oren was unable to meet and befriend Malcolm, Sam the Behir, and Donabella, 1 being, I'm actually glad I wasn't there because it was only Ari who liked those characters. And 10 being, not only did not meeting them make me cry, but I've also begun planning how I will take my revenge on Philip if he doesn't let me meet and try to befriend them by the end of the campaign.
You know, I would probably put it at, so this is the thing when ranking things 1 to 10 that I've tried to start doing, that I read in a book somewhere, and I almost just ranked it a 7.
Mm-hmm.
And basically it's like eliminate 7 from a 1 through 10 because that's the cop out answer of like, oh, it's kind of important but not super.
Right.
And because 6 feels low and 8 feels high.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably put it at an 8. Like I would really like to get to interact with those characters and like see Orin. I think Orin with new Donabella and Malcolm would be fun. Also, I just thought Malcolm was rad in Kyber Shards and wanted to
Right.
be his friend, and we beefed that. So second chances and all that. So yeah,
Yeah.
but no, I would really like to have a chance to interact with those characters, but we'll see. I did not cry about missing out. So.
Well, I mean, when we started recording the session, you came back. You didn't know what you'd missed because you hadn't had the opportunity to watch.
I've been busy.
Yeah, that wasn't criticism.
No, I did see the thumbnails, and so when I saw the Donabella thumbnail, I was like, "Oh, what the hell?"
Yeah,
but also, Emily, it's understandable that you make this mistake by including making me cry as number 10. I'm emotionally dead inside, and I don't cry at anything except for the final episode of The Office. So you didn't know that, now you know.
It is hard not to cry at. Yeah, it's a good episode. It's a good finale.
Yep.
Additionally, and this is interesting, Eric, do you anticipate ever engaging in PvP due to Svoboda's moral code conflicting with the crew's piratical tactics?
So I would say no, just because I think the only thing that would cause Svoboda to go full, like, I have to enact violence to stop you from your course of action, is if the part, without getting into too much of like who Svoboda's and stuff, is if the party tried to uh enslave someone or like overly oppress that, like Svoboda doesn't do well with like removing someone's freedom in a like systemic or oppressive standpoint. So as long as the party doesn't do any of that stuff, then I think we're good. But Svoboda is very much about like the ability to make your own decisions and live your life. And so while Svoboda may not agree, and there may come a time where Philip and I have to have a conversation about Svoboda just dipping out because he can't abide what the party is doing. I don't think he would ever like enact violence upon the party due to piratical activity.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Now I get a chance to prove you wrong. Josh has a few questions for us. What was Orin's favorite form of entertainment in his life before coming to the Lazar Principalities? Did he ever get to get out and see the sights, take in shows, have fun?
So, not really. Like there were two things that Orin was really afforded the ability to do for fun before getting to the Principalities. And that was reading, just because that is such a singular act, and regardless of the circumstance that you're in, you have to have time where you're laying on your bed before you go to sleep. And so being able to read stories was a big thing. And then also interacting with animals was a pretty big form of entertainment, like playing with animals and stuff like that were the two big things that allowed Orin some sense of like joy and fun in his life. Outside of that, before he got to the Principalities, he had a window of time where he was kind of shunted away, and then another window of time where he was also shunted away, but in a like vocational aspect, which I kind of touched on by him having the Dark Citadel, or not the Dark Citadel, the King's Citadel badge,
Yeah.
where he was like in training there. And I don't imagine they give you a whole lot of like shore leave time to like, hey, go catch a show. So those would be the two things that Orin really enjoyed in terms of forms of entertainment.
Cool. If Orin could have any critter of an elementalish persuasion, such as Sam the Fire Elemental or Sam the Behir, as a friendly pet companion, what would his pick be?
So I'm trying to think through all the different like elemental options because Orin's obviously really big on water because of being a pirate, but wind also, and I think Orin would have a greater appreciation for wind because without it you just kind of get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
um
Sure.
and so I think something air elementalish based. um and Orin would prefer like something of the feline persuasion. He like the pauldron in his hero forge. He likes ghost tigers, and so something along those lines would be pretty rad, like an air tiger or something.
Cool. Yeah. How many pairs of pants did Aggie chew through during the time that Orin was responsible for feeding her?
Orin's gonna have to go see a tailor when he gets back to. Probably an aggravating amount because the first time you think, oh, okay, so just this was an accident, that something happened, and then the second one's like, okay, it's a problem, so let me try to problem solve how to keep this from happening. And you probably go through like 4 or 5 different iterations of solving the problem before you've actually solved the problem,
Mm-hmm.
because unfortunately Aggie is smarter than your average house pet. So yeah.
Very true. Unless I'm blanking on it, we haven't seen a HeroForge version of Svoboda. Thoughts on doing one? I will say I have actually made one for the use on a tabletop if we ever needed to. It hasn't come up yet because we haven't had a really complicated fight yet. But I haven't gotten Eric's. Just based on Eric saying it looks like Idris Elba from the Thor movies, which is the extent to which I've gone so far. But, yeah. So it exists. It just hasn't appeared yet. Any ongoing feelings on Orin's side regarding Sohina's using him as a ladder during the Reckless Grace fight?
The thing that was primarily hurt was his pride about that, but he also understands that in a fight you just kind of got to do things that you got to do. So there's probably some lingering annoyance towards Sahina at this point, but nothing substantially like, oh, I gotta, yeah.
Nobody who's not Finian got out of that encounter with all of their pride intact,
Right.
so it's
Yeah.
probably a lot of that to go around.
Yeah.
And then a question directed specifically towards Svoboda. And I don't know, you can decide how much of this you want to get into because obviously it might be something we could get into at the table at some point. But what is it like when Svoboda is contained and not out and about? Does he experience time passing at the same rate as Orin, or does it feel more like sleeping?
So it's not like sleeping. Like Svoboda's not completely unaware. It's much more like Svoboda can communicate with Orin through like impulses and feelings and assist Orin through manipulating his body and things like that. But he also doesn't truly experience everything. He can't like see through Orin's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So he really relies on Orin to be truthful about, if he shows up in a dicey situation, is like, what's going on? Orin, yeah, it's kind of up to Orin about how much is told. So, I mean, think of it very much kind of like Venom almost, except
Mm-hmm.
there's not that overt ability to see through the host's eyes, if that makes sense.
Right.
But for Svoboda, he is aware. It's just trying to think of what it would be like. Yeah, that's a good question, Josh, and I need to think more on like what he actually experiences when he's not summoned. But yeah, he would experience time passing at the same rate, um, and yeah, so that's the best answer I can give right now.
Cool. And then our last question from Mark Exo. Would you be willing to create a channel to highlight the characters on Discord featuring pics and figures, names, classes, maybe including notable NPCs? I listen to too many podcasts. Sometimes characters get mixed up in my head. Man, same. I have definitely occasionally had to pause while making notes for a session and gone, nope, wrong campaign. So to my knowledge, there's not a great way to make this for a Discord channel, but good news is, and I haven't done a good enough job publicizing the existence of this. Josh, our viewer Josh, has compiled a wiki for Blades and Banners, which has most of the characters. I'm not sure what episode it's up through because obviously, absolutely nobody rewards Josh for this except with our gratitude. But from what I have seen, it's fairly up to date. I have made use of it because Josh includes transcripts of the episodes, and that's way easier to see. What did I name that guy? But it has characters, NPCs, things like that, often with the HeroForge images included. So that is a great resource if you're trying to keep characters together in line. I'm very happy to provide the HeroForge portraits whenever Josh needs them. So, just DM me on Discord if you need those, Josh. And yeah, I don't know that. I mean, I don't know if everything has like classes and stuff. I don't usually apply classes to NPCs in any case, but it's got most of the information there. And I think that's probably a better format for that than a Discord channel, because then you're just scrolling back through infinite lists of Discord channels. So that would be my answer to that from my perspective. I will start including that in the links in the description on our videos, so that it's easy to find that link. I know it was posted in the Discord after this question was posted, but I wanted to point out that existed on air. So if you would like to go back and review episodes or find character information, Josh has created a very excellent Discord, and I'll put a link to that in the description on this show. And that is all of our episode, all of our questions. Boy, my head. All of our questions for this episode of the Ship's Log. Thank you all so much for the questions. Feel free, you want to post those. You can post those on our Discord, the link to which is down below. You can also let us know what your preferred elemental pet would be in the comments down below. We are eager to find out. And what your favorite way of hand waving a character off screen when a player can't make it is, if you are a fellow GM. Always good to have new ideas for that. Also, I just realized there's a dog behind Eric because there was suddenly movement. Hi, Kylo.
There are 4 dogs behind.
Oh my gosh, yes. There are so many more dogs on that bed than I thought there were.
Big black one, saw Kylo. Black and white one.
Yep.
And then there's 2 down here. So yeah.
Very good. Anyway,
so many dogs,
and now there are dogs in the video. Even better. New episodes of Blades and Banners drop on Monday. New episodes.
I was back here and did not even see the white one.
Oh, there it is. I was like, there's definitely
5 dogs. 5 dogs.
5. You got all the dogs, man. You've caught them all.
Yep.
New episodes of the Ship's Log come out on alternating Fridays. And until next time, thanks for rolling with us.